Hey, coach, it looks like you nailed it in the preseason when you said T-Mark was an underrated offensive player. But I remember you saying maybe he had a bit of an adjustment period, maybe scheme-wise, defensively. Just curious what you've seen from him on that end of the floor. I imagine he's going to draw some tough assignments in league play.
Yeah, I think T-Mark's done he's improving with some of our schemes and techniques. Obviously, last year playing at the University of Houston, Coach Sampson does an incredible job of demanding defense. They've always been historically one of the best defensive teams, and obviously with T-Mark, the minutes he played, 25 plus minutes a night, and starting every game. Certainly, he's got the ability to be a high-level defender. He's proven that. He has a high track record of being an excellent defender, and I think he's done, what we thought he would do of late, defending. And he's certainly been rebounding the ball much better as well. And then I think he's had his best cutting games the last two games. I thought he's done a much better job offensively moving without the ball, especially as teams try to limit his catches. He's been great at backdoor cut and cutting when the defense loads up on him at times when he's off the ball.
And looking at Auburn, I think they're maybe one of just 5 or 6 teams that rank inside the top 20 in offensive and defensive efficiency. Just what have you made of their season so far and the challenges they pose?
Well, certainly, in the 4.5 years that I've been in the SEC, Coach Pearl's done an incredible job. They understand who they are. They have just much like Wilmington that we just played. I mean, when they sub, they get better at times, and they get better at certain positions, you could argue. But they bring Cartwell in, for Broom, center for center. They bring Keon Johnson in at that off guard spot for Denver Jones. They bring number 10 in at the small forward for Chris Moore. They bring Donaldson in for Holloway at the one. So they bring in a true point, a true off guard, a true small forward, true power forward, and a true center. And so, you're getting a steady diet of guys playing their natural position. There's not a lot of real big lineup, or not a lot maybe of small ball. It's true positional, position for position when they sub, and their bench points, are phenomenal.
Bob. Hey, Eric, we got to get you some Packers gear to wear.
Anything that's free.
Okay. Hey, I hope KB's ankle's okay. Just wondering, has he been practicing? How's he doing?
Yeah, so he did not practice on Monday. We did go 2 practices yesterday. We went 2 practices today, although the format was a little bit different today than what it was yesterday and what it was last week. He did go through both practices, yesterday and today.
So I assume he's okay if he practiced. And kind of what have you made of his season? He's obviously had some great games. He's had a couple of subpar ones, but he doesn't seem to be a guy that loses confidence. Just kind of what are you made of his season? What are you expecting from him in SEC play?
Yeah, I mean, I think KB's an explosive offensive player. He can really get streaky hot. We want him to continue to have consistency from a defensive standpoint. Offensively, high energy guy, incredible confidence. Obviously, we run plays for him when he is in the game. Can go get his own shot off the bounce. Has great elevation on his jump shot. So I think that he's, the one thing is just consistency. I mean, he's had some games where it just lights out and the defense has no answer for him. And then there's been some other games of some 2 for 10 nights that I think all offensive players that are explosive scorers, they go through those nights as well. So, but we've been really happy with him as an offensive threat. He's got deep 3-point range, and then his free throws attempt numbers are as good as anyone in the country. And he's able to do that through isolations. He's able to do that through broken plays, and he's able to do that in late shot clock situations.
And then Devo, we obviously talked about him the other day having such a good game. He's a guy that's played as many SEC games as probably anybody the last 4 years or 3 years, going into his fourth year. How valuable is Devo's, not just his experience, but the SEC experience, and what kind of leadership does he provide for a lot of these guys who haven't played SEC games yet, even if they're experienced college players, they haven't experienced the SEC?
Well, certainly that's a big concern when you play Auburn, when you look at their roster and you sit there and you understand that Jalen Williams has been a part of Auburn's success for more than 1 year, and he's played in Bud Walton. And you look at Keon Johnson, he's played in this building. He understands what it's like to play in this league. I'm sure Auburn has aspirations to be a Final Four team. I'm sure they have aspirations to win the SEC. They're a top 25 team with experience. Johnny Broom was one of the best centers in the league last year, so he's got great experience in this league. So they have a lot of guys that are going to play major minutes for them, that understand what it's like to play in the SEC, and we have some guys as well and you mentioned, Devonte Davis has a lot of experience in SEC play, and certainly a guy like Jalen Graham has a year under his belt, and T. Brazil's got a couple of years of playing in this league. So Kai Mitchell. So we have some guys as well that hopefully can shed some light to our new guys about the importance, how every game is tight, how every game is a hard fought contest. So certainly that all becomes factors.
You talked the other day about Devo always seems to pick up his game this time of year. Maybe he did it a game earlier. I mean, do you get a sense he's kind of ready to really ratchet it up?
Yeah, I think Devo's a guy that, coming off of his best game. He's an explosive defender because he can guard so many different positions offensively. I think Keon really has helped Devo get good open looks. I mean, you look at the 3-point shots that Devo made last game. A lot of them were coming off Keon Minifield, draw defender, spit it out. Devo feet set threes. I think that has helped. Devonte is and last year you look at Devo's 3-point shooting. I mean, he shot the ball as well as any guard, as well as any player from three in our league, and certainly feel like he's worked on that in the offseason. He's certainly now getting a little bit different looks maybe than he was during those first few segments when he was, playing some point, had the ball in his hands a lot. Now you're shooting 3-point shots off the bounce rather than maybe catch and shoots. And I think Devo can get to the basket even more than what he has shown. I think that's a part of his game that we want to have continue to evolve as well, because he's so sneaky off the bounce, and he's got good explosiveness around the rim. So that's an area that we want to continue to see him get better at, or utilize it more than maybe what he has thus far.
Yeah, I had a question Nate wanted me to ask. Maybe Mike could call on me at the end for a Nate question. Thanks.
Jackson.
Personally, I love the hoodie, Eric. I just want to get that out there. But you kind of touched into my question there, just Keon's presence, not just Devo, but Tremont and KB. How much does it help them maybe being able to play off the ball a little bit more, be some, have spend some time as spot up shooters and not have to, all kind of focus a little less on organizing the offense?
Yeah, I mean, Keon's got, true point guard mentality. He's not a combo guard. He's a player that really understands how to get people in the right spots. He's got creativeness off the bounce. He's got shiftiness. He's got really, really good court vision. I think that's the one thing, when we recruited him, obviously we saw his ability to score, his ability to break down a defense when plays break down. It was important for him to gain some of the weight that he has, which he did do a great job of that during the course of the offseason. But I do think he's helped that, I think it alleviates some pressure, maybe of guys like T. Mark trying to set people up, trying to score. When you got multiple thoughts going through your head, it can make things difficult. So I think that that Keon's really helped in that area for sure.
TB had some moments against Wilmington where he looked really aggressive, kind of like driving to the basket, finishing through contact and such. I mean, how positive was that to see, coming off the ankle and right before SEC play, that kind of aggression coming from him?
Yeah, I mean, he needs to be a guy that beats people off the dribble, because he's got a good quick first step. He's got a long first step. People underestimate how long that first step of TB's can be. We tried to put him in some positions out on the floor, where he had the ability to be able to jab step and rip and go. But that's certainly an area besides his 3-point shooting. We all know that he's an excellent pick and pop player. He's an excellent floor spacer. He did a great job against Duke, spacing the floor and bringing their 4-man away from the basket. So we know that he's going to do that. We know that we're going to put him in positions offensively to be a floor spacer. And then we need him to have that aggressive mindset off the bounce anytime somebody closes out to him. With the thought of trying to take away the 3, he's got to be able to utilize his bounce game, which he obviously did against UNC Wilmington.
And last one from me, always hard for a freshman to kind of be a point guard in college basketball, but Aiden Holloway is having a pretty good year. What have you seen from him, and what kind of excites you about the matchup between him and your guards?
Yeah, super impressed with Holloway and the fact that his assist to turnover ratio is good. Super impressed with his ability to create shots for others, his high volume assists. And then, look, you got to identify him. You got to ID him right away. He takes deep shots, shots at what you would consider the 4-point line. So you can never, not carry a hand. He's really great shooter off the bounce. Unique when a guy can be shifty, go left, right, east, west, and pull up, rise over the top of you. So been very impressed with him, and Donaldson's done a good job backing him up as well. They got great point guard play. You look at their limited amount of turnovers last night against Penn. They've done an excellent job of taking care of the basketball for sure. And they play with great pace offensively. And Holloway spearheads their attack game off the bounce. They do a good job throwing both point guards sideline break. And then very uniquely, when you really sit and study them, their point guards will bring the ball up sometimes, for instance, on the right wing, and they'll throw the ball across court at a 45-degree angle from the back court to the front court to open up dribble drive angles for guys like Keon Johnson, or for 3 balls to guys like Denver Jones off of 45-degree cross court pass from 3-quarter court. Really impressed with that. That's a unique transition trait that both point guards have.
Coach, you still got a question?
I was going to ask about TB and Holloway, and Jackson got both of them, so I'll turn it over to Bob.
Go ahead, Bob.
Okay, I appreciate deferring. Hey, this is Nate's question. I'm going to read and make sure I don't screw it up. Even with all the tough non-conference games you've played, what do you anticipate your team experienced starting SEC play, starting with Auburn, that maybe you didn't experience in the first 13 games? Is there anything new about SEC play?
Yeah, I mean, I think our league, for all of us, I don't think, Alabama's played a really tough schedule. Auburn's played a difficult schedule. We feel like we've experienced a lot of different things through non-conference. But when you get to the SEC, it doesn't matter if it's this year or 4 years ago. You're talking about great length. You're talking about great athleticism. And for the most part in our league, you're talking about really good pace of play. You talk about great rebounding teams. Those are some of the traits that I've seen over the last 4.5 years with SEC play. And then every conference, whether it's 1987 and I'm playing at the University of San Diego, when you play Pepperdine, you play St. Mary's, you play Gonzaga, those guys, those teams in league play, you're talking about close games. You're talking about games that oftentimes come down to the wire. You're talking about playing teams more than one time during the course of the second half of your season or conference play. And so all of those things, make it a different and unique situation to be in. obviously some of these teams, you might play somebody 3 times. So, and then our players, when you're in non-conference, look, our guys did not know who UNCG was. Our guys did not know any of the Stanford Cardinal players. Half of our team knows half of the Auburn team and vice versa. So that alone takes on new meaning. Some of these guys have had matchups against each other in the past. So now there's some personal stuff that goes into going against a certain player or going against a certain program. So yeah, there's a lot of added things that start taking on a life of its own in conference play. I mean, from a coaching standpoint, I've never sat in a meeting with Jared Haas from Stanford. I've never sat in a meeting, with the UNC Wilmington coach or the Furman coach. I mean, we as coaches, we sit in meetings with each other. There's personalities that are in those rooms that are unique and different. And, then there's some competitive stuff that comes into everything. So yeah, it's a lot different league.
And then I know this is just the first 18, but you're playing Auburn, they're ranked. Your next 2 are on the road. I mean, how important is this game Saturday to get off to a good start at home?
Well, I think every game, every game is, whether you're home or road, is really important to both teams. It's the start of conference play. It's one game, but it's against a team that has won a lot of games since Coach Pearl's been there. And they're going to be ready to play. And we hope that our guys are ready to play. And you're playing against a team that's ranked. I think anytime you play against a team that's ranked, you should be ready to play. And then we got to turn around and we got to start getting ready for what's coming is a unique cycle where it's Tuesday or Wednesday, Saturday, Tuesday or Wednesday, and so now we're going to start getting into some rhythm. Our practice structure is going to start changing beginning tomorrow. And it'll change, throughout the year, the practice schedule as well as you get deeper into February. And, but this is a start of the league play against a ranked team on a Saturday, which should be a great crowd. Should be a lot of enthusiasm, both Auburn side. Their guys will be ready to play. And hopefully, like I said, our guys will be ready to play as well. And obviously then, as you mentioned, Bob, we're staring at 2 road games back to back. We have never gone on the road and stayed on the road. We're going to do that on this trip based on the 2 places that we're going to and based on the fact that we're not in school, although we know that Georgia's students are back, I think, and Florida students are back. So we're still not in class, so we'll stay on the road for that one road trip. We haven't done it in the past. We'll see how it rolls.
I got one more. Broom, he's obviously a great inside player. I think he missed 16 straight threes, and then he hit 3 out of 4 last night. Does that change how you defend him at all, or you just think, well, he can't have games like that, or just wonder what you thought about his 3-point shooting?
No, I've read all their articles that have come out in the last month. I know that he's worked hard based on what I'm reading. He's worked really hard on his 3-point shot. I thought Broom's 3-point attempts last night looked good coming out of his hand. He's obviously going to come into this game regardless of what happened in the prior games. Coming off his last game, he made 3 threes, and but he does most of his damage inside. I know that was 9 of his points or whatever last night, but he's still interior. That's where you've got to be the most worried with, but you certainly don't want any player to take horse shots and you're closing out short to someone that has the ability to make threes. And you can't close out reckless because he's got a good deceptive first step off the bounce. So you got to play him for when he's out on the perimeter, you got to play him for several things. He's really good DHO, dribble handoff player, because guards get stuck on him when he DHOs out on the floor, and he does a pretty good job of passing the ball to Jalen Williams on duck-ins. And then obviously last night he proved he can be a multiple 3-point threat as well. So a lot of things that you have to do when you guard Johnny Broom.
Thanks.
All right, coach. Thanks. Appreciate your time.
I got nothing else. I got a lot of time now that we've already got 2 practices in. We sure everything's good, everybody?
Well, I mean, if you want a couple more questions, I can oblige you.
We'll do one more if you got one, Bob. It's got to be really important one.
Oh man, you're putting the pressure on.
You
Well,
put the pressure on me, so I'm coming back at you.
okay. Well, they're not a big 3-point shooting team, but they hit, I think, 10
They
and
were
19.
last night in the first half.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. I mean, do you look at that as well, that was just a weird one-time thing against Penn, or does that something you have to think, well, man, this is something we need to do at the end of the week is get ready for their 3-point shooting, you know?
I mean, I think that they're really good offensively. Obviously, you know, they shot, they were on fire the first half, and then the second half was the script, you know, flipped a little bit from 3-point range. But look, Keon Johnson can make threes. We all know Holloway can make threes. We know Broom with his feet set times can make threes. We know Jalen Williams can make threes at that power forward spot. Denver Jones, if you look at his Florida International numbers, phenomenal. His numbers now, he's a great foul shooter. His 3-point percentage is good. Off the bench, number 10 at the small forward spot, their lefty who played at San Diego State, he can make threes. And so, yeah, you got to guard both. And that's what good players and good teams, they're a threat on the perimeter, and they're a threat off dribble drive, and they're a threat at the rim. And certainly that's what you're going to face when you play Auburn.
Yeah, Moore, he's a West Memphis kid. I know you all recruited him. He's had a solid career there. He hasn't been a star, but you know, obviously Pearl likes starting him, and he gets in his 15, 16 minutes. Kind of what are you seeing from Chris Moore?
Yeah, he's a same thing that we've seen from him, you know, every year that we've talked about him. He's a relentless competitor. He's got great toughness. He scores around the rim. He does a great job getting loose balls. Coach Pearl will put him on the 1, 2, or 3, or 4, whoever he thinks is a primary offensive threat. He gets low in the stance. He's got great pride in his defense. You know, and then they're going to come in with some other firepower off the bench as well. But he's a fierce competitor who plays really, really hard.
Is there anything else you want to say?
I don't think so. I think we've covered it all.
Okay. Those
Thanks,
are
Coach.
good, thorough answers. I appreciate that.
All right, you guys. Thanks.
All right.